out in 2007 or 2008-ish, and it says, oh yeah, no, that's actually not true. That manufacturer never came forward and said that, but in the official reports, that's what it says.
Okay.
There's also some things, there's more weird behavior on the part of the FBI. One of the people that was involved said that he took a part to the FBI to have part of the plane. Said, can you test this? They were testing for nitrates. And they took it in, and the thing tested positive, and everybody started wigging out. And then the FBI shut him out and said, we have to ship it somewhere, and it's because we don't know if this is real, and the machine is prone to false positives, except the machine was state-of-the-art, and the guy who made the machine and sells it was like, yeah, no, there's no such thing as false positives with this thing. It goes down to, so many parts per million to make this conclusion. So
it's like when McDonald's is like, no, our ice cream machine is down, when it's just the employees just want all the ice cream for themselves.
That's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, but I can see if you did get a positive on this thing, you'd want to ship it off to somewhere else for more testing.
Well, and the thing that people say is weird about that is that there shouldn't have been any difference between what they were doing on site. Also, once it left the hangar, that part has been unaccounted for since then. So people find that to be very, very hinky.
They lose stuff. The FBI still can't put its hands on D.B. Cooper's cigarette.
No, they lose stuff all the time.
Yeah, everybody does.
Let's see, what else?
They will not.
What else did the FBI do? Well, according to investigators, they manipulated wreckage. The NTSB...
We're talking about NTSB
allegations against the FBI.
Right. Okay. Yes. I just wanted to be clear that we're saying that one agency that was investigating it, one national agency that was in charge of investigating is
making allegations against the other.
Right.
That
it's
is
not
correct.
Just random people on the internet saying,
correct.
Well, I heard this.
It's not in the comment section.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure.
So NTSB investigator James Spear, he's been open about saying that he walked into the hangar at one point and caught a unnamed FBI agent using, I think it was like a hammer, on pieces of wreckage to change their shape, which is just more than a little bit unusual when you want to keep things as they were.
When it's like a crime scene or whatever?
Yeah. Exactly.
Although,
you don't know what it looks like if you've modified its appearance.
But he was weighing on something. Is this guy sure it was wreckage and not just something else? It was not wreckage?
As far as I'm aware, they only had wreckage in there. It wasn't like they were storing wreckage and...
They had other stuff in there, I'm sure. They had their tools. They had their lunch boxes. There was miscellaneous other stuff.
I don't think he was fixing his thermos.
Wreckage.
I don't know. Maybe it had a...
But
I don't know.
So here's other things that their allegations they have out there. They say that David Mayer, who was the NTSB's the NTSB? Yeah, he's the NTSB's head guy for this investigation. He was seen, believed to be colluding with the FBI, and he was going through the hangar. And as things were coming in, they were being tagged with their location. What zone did they come from? How did they get there? And he apparently was changing what was written on the tags, which is highly unusual because, again, that changes and says the landing gear didn't drop in first, it dropped in last. That would greatly influence your conclusion of the order of events of the explosion.
Yeah.
So that has got people... there's a lot of people who just hate that guy's guts.
Right.
They do not like him at all. I don't have an opinion on him, but they go to some pretty great lengths to say some rather nasty things about him. But again, why are they doing all this? Why are they hiding it? Well, if it's a military mistake, then that gives them a reason to all work, the NTSB and the FBI, to work together with whatever military organization it was to hide the fact that they accidentally took down one of our civilian craft.
But I don't see how changing the labels so it looks like, I don't know, I just don't see how that really affects the outcome of the investigation all that much.
I think it redirects it. If you think that a part of the plane fell off first, and then now you think it in the very beginning, and now you think it fell off halfway through the process.
Yeah,
that's going to change.
Plane broke up in a different way.
Yeah, it's going to change your analysis. Yeah,
I kind of see what that is, but it still doesn't take away the fact that if the military screwed up, took it down with a missile, that physical evidence is going to remain.
It's
true. Still going to be there.
There should be, and people have said, listen, the missile probably we're going to jump forward, and then I'm going to get into this. So we're going to get into the documentary Multiple Missile Theory, but there's people who say that, listen, the missile didn't actually explode in the plane. It just punched through the plane from underside to topside, and that's what caused the explosion. And so because that metal was torn and not ignited and melted, they're not seeing it. And I'm using air quotes when I'm saying they're not seeing it. Do I believe that? I'm not 100% on board with that. So like I said before, multiple times now, there's a documentary. This is the 2013 documentary focused on the event, and I'm pretty sure it's made by Tom Salcott. He's features prominently in it. He's actually in the one that's from 2007 or 8. I think that's the year anyway. I keep forgetting what year the older one was made in. And he's made allegations pretty much from the beginning. He was in the meetings, the official hearings back in 2000 that were taking place on this. So, like, this guy is deeply involved.
What's his relation to it? Is he just an investigator, or?
He just took an interest in it,
okay,
and went from there. He had no formal training. He had no reason to be involved in it.
He's the one.
He planted the bomb, you think?
Yeah, he did it.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
All right. But we've already talked a little bit about the fact that, he, along with several other people, didn't feel that the NTSB and the FBI were doing everything above board. And one of the things that they use to say that something is being hidden is the bodies of the people in the plane. And I apologize, it can be a tad bit graphic here, but the bodies of the passengers should have shown evidence of exposure to extreme fire temperatures or extreme heat, and extreme pressure changes. And they also should have shown evidence from, if they were thrown out of their seats or their seats disconnected, from impacting other objects inside of the plane and eventually, and then possibly the surface of the ocean. Yeah. And that should have followed a pattern, which it makes sense,
depending on where they were sitting in the plane.
Yes.
And after they identified the bodies, they would know
the
where
guy
they were
in the
sitting
tail
in
of the plane is probably not going to be burned, whereas the person sitting over the center wing tank should have suffered extreme, fire damage.
Some of the other stuff, like when they're talking about trauma and stuff like that, it's like, after this body has fallen, like, thousands and thousands of feet and hit the ocean,
and then maybe been submerged for a while.
Yeah, how the hell can you tell? I mean, I understand the burns. You're going to recognize burns, but some of the rest of that I'm not so sure about.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that they're saying, according to this documentary, they say that the medical examiner's stuff, I don't want to say it's fabricated, but maybe modified or altered, because they say the conclusions, because they're saying that there are bodies that weren't burned that should have been burned, and there were bodies that were burned that should not have been.
Yeah, people further back in the plane that should not have been burned.
Right, and the same thing with impact damage and stuff like that. They go off on this. But when I read things, and it took me several times to really internalize this, the center wing tank is not the only thing on fire. The wings are venting fuel and burning, which means the body of the plane is, the center of the fuselage has got fire pouring down it. So it actually maybe does make sense that some people who are farther back in the plane are burned.
But it doesn't.
The heat source isn't the only thing. Even if that wasn't happening, if it was a center wing tank that was on fire, that's where the big conflagration is going on.
Right.
And also, that these are people seated behind it, well back and everything like that. But the plane is still moving forward at a high speed. What happens is all that heat is pushed back into the plane. So the people it would actually cool the people right next to the tank. They would be less likely to get burned. The people behind them would be more likely to get barbecued. It's kind of the way I'm thinking.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I just agree that it's weird that it sounds like not everybody in like rows were burned. Or
well, the burns did, theoretically you should expect that the row, up a number here, row 27, A to F, they all should have had relatively similar burns.
Right.
But instead, only A, B, and C of 27 C or D and E of the row behind him, and then so it kind of makes a stagger pattern. That's one of the things that I've seen pointed out, is that like the injuries and stuff seem to not be as uniform as one would initially expect. But then again, explosions and fires tend to not be uniform.
It's like pandemonium, chaos kind of thing.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know, this makes me think that if I fly in a 747, I'm going to sit right over that center wing tank.
I always sit over the wings because it's the smoothest ride.
Yeah, that's another good reason, because it's the fulcrum of the plane.
It's the fulcrum of the plane. No matter what's going on, it's smoothest ride. And obviously we can only hope that these people were dead well before any of this started happening.
Yeah.
Some of the ones in the back might have actually survived for a little bit.
I really hope that the initial explosion was
Just
enough to, if nothing else, render them unconscious.
I would,
because otherwise it would be a terrifying ride, and then when that big wave of searing heat comes back,
would just be so
that
awful,
would really suck.
Yeah, you should stop there, Joe.
Yeah. But I agree, it is a little weird. Knowing that there is some semblance of a pattern makes me, I initially, when I read that, was thinking like, okay, so passengers in like A, C, and E were all burned, but like in B, D, and F were fine, right? And that to me is like, well, that's that Sherlock episode where it's just a plane full of people who are already dead. Like that's how that happens. That's the only way that happens, right? But knowing that it was kind of like in this weird maybe diagonal pattern, that doesn't bother me as much, because that I can understand how things could be traveling like that. So.
And it also to me does not indicate missile versus fuel tank explosion. It doesn't it doesn't make anything.
No.
It doesn't make me think.
Agree.
No.
Terrorist bomb or accident or whatever. It doesn't change anything really.
The other thing that really sticks in Salcott and Team's craw is the interviews with the witnesses, because we mentioned this before, but the FBI did all the interviews because this was still a criminal investigation at the time, and all that was provided was the FBI investigators' notes. It wasn't as if it was a transcript of what was stated, and so therefore it's already a slightly modified version of the conversation. So they say, well, obviously that's not the entire conversation, and they say that the fact that the NTSB then declined to re-interview these witnesses, because the NTSB said, listen, there's like let's just say 500 people were interviewed, because that's a ballpark about the right number.
I think it was more like 700 or 800, but
yeah, but
whatever. A lot of people.
I'm round figuring it. So round figure, let's just say 500 they want to talk to. Yeah. But those people have already been talked to once, and now a year, 2, 3 have passed, and memory changes, and that's a lot of effort and time to track those people down and retake their statements, and so
their statements may have changed,
and they change, and so they took them completely as is from the FBI.
That totally makes sense, because also there's been a lot of publicity, which is also going to influence these people's thoughts about the whole thing. So it really makes it worthless to go back and re-interview them. Oh, they probably should have recorded, or maybe
the FBI, I think, really was a little too cursory with that part.
Yeah, that was my initial question when we were first talking about the case. Was people reported they saw missiles. Well, did they report they saw a missile after they found out that a plane exploded, or did they just on their own think, oh, that looks like a missile? Right? Because if I saw something go up in the air and then learned that a plane had exploded, I would think, it looked kind of like a missile. But at the time when I saw the initial thing, I might have thought, that looks like a crappy firework. Like, what's going on there?
Some people were thinking that. And also, let's not forget, this was less than 2 weeks after 4th of July.
Right.
The holiday.
But that's what I mean, that was my initial question and it's so indicative of how that can change. There's so much perception. And also, like you said, they should have just...
They should have recorded it much better than that.
Come on, guys.
That probably would have been
so here's where this gets. So this is this whole part we've been talking about is the multi-missile theory, and this is the part of where there's two things about Salcott and the documentary that I don't like. One, it bugs the hell out of me that he hijacked the last 10 or 15 minutes of the documentary to talk about how his mom died when he was a kid. That was weird. But what also bugs me is that they start saying, oh no, the plane was taken down by multiple missiles. The early documentary that he was featured in says it was 2 missiles.
Now it says more?
And then when you go to the 2013 documentary, they've upped the ante and they've moved it to 3 missiles. And as far as I can tell, what they're doing is they're basically figuring out where these people were in time and on the coast, and then saying, okay, well, these people must have saw this one, and these people must have saw that one, and they've assembled this timeline of 3 missiles impacting this plane almost exactly at the same time.
Instead of saying that the witnesses could have been faulty and could have been seeing something weird.
It's hard enough sometimes for things to hit a moving object, just one of them. You know, that's why they usually fire multiple projectiles.
3 simultaneously. That's unlikely, but yeah, and the thing about it is, and that what they're doing, reconstructing it that way makes kind of sense, because from the vantage point of some of the witnesses, well, it looked like it was coming straight up from the ground. Others said, oh no, it looks like it was coming at about a 45-degree angle from like north to south, and others said east to west, west to east, and so you assemble all that together, you get the trajectories of what maybe were 3 missiles, or maybe a couple of pieces of fireworks. I mean, because again, we Americans, if you don't know this, we
love to send things into the sky and make them explode.
We like things that go bluey. We like our noisy, explosive, dangerous toys. And
our dogs and cats don't, but we do.
No, yeah. And so again, less than 2 weeks after 4th of July, but there's still some stray rockets out there that people had.
Yeah.
And we're shooting out. So it could have been some of that stuff going on.
But here's the funny thing is that I was watching something. This was actually today. I was watching like a Stinger missile. Something a guy launched off his shoulder, something like that, or even if it was from a ship, actually more the Stinger missile, it would have taken off in about 1 or 2 seconds after it left the barrel of the launcher. It would have begun to burn its fuel and make smoke as it propelled itself upwards, but you would only see that trail of smoke for about 7 seconds, and then it would exhaust that fuel and continue on its trajectory unaided, just under its own force, but there'd be no trail at that point. So now you got another up to 7 seconds of flight before impact.
And exactly. And these people were recording
the trail going all the way up and then going boom.
Yeah, they're reporting, and for in some cases like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And again, all these little manpad type launchers, like I said, they have maybe 7 or 8 seconds of burn time, and that's it, just bam. And so,
so that's one of the things that really kind of sunk it was launched from the coast by a person theory for me. What we have here, though, is we do have, believe it or not, we still have remaining theories.
Oh, we do.
We're way into this, and we're not
They're
done.
bad. They're bad theories, though.
Like Michael Jackson bad? I'm bad. No, not that kind of bad.
Like O.J. Simpson bad.
Okay. Yeah. All right, well, so bad theory number 1, according to Devin, is the meteorite theory.
Actually, I don't think this is so bad.
I think the odds on this are astronomical, but...
Well, they are.
She got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
For once, you like to joke.
I didn't like it. I just got it.
Okay, so there's absolutely no support for this theory, but what it said is that is it bolide or bolide?
I think it's bolide.
I thought so, too. Yeah. A bolide caused the destruction of this plane, and here's how it works, is that a meteor comes, just shuttling into our atmosphere, heats up to the point that it explodes into a bunch of little bits.
Yeah, like that one that blew up over Russia several years ago.
This stuff happens.
Oh, it happens every day.
It happens all the time on varying scales, and they're saying that what happened is it was at just the right place and time that when it exploded, that bits of shrapnel that came off of it went into the aircraft, and that's what ignited it, and that's what set the entire explosion off.
Yeah.
I would think that if this was the case for as many airplanes as we have in the sky, this should have happened more than just this time.
Actually, I could see it being a one-off thing. Because,
really?
Again, this is if it did happen, would be an extremely rare occurrence. Extremely rare.
Okay.
And so I could totally. The only reason I don't buy this theory entirely is, number one, there's no proof for it. Yep. Even though it's plausible, it's possible. But I think it's very unlikely that if it had happened, that the plane would have only been hit by one piece of meteorite. It would have been hit by at least several, if not, hundreds. Who knows? When bullets blow up, I don't know how many pieces they actually explode into.
I think it really
Probably a
depends
lot.
on the unique one.
Yeah, it totally does, I'm sure. And so, it seems unlikely to me that it managed only one piece hit the plane.
Well, Bob breaks into 4 pieces while Tommy over there breaks into 100. It really just depends on what kind they are. So
Yeah,
it could be